Welcome to the Awesomers.com podcast. If you love to learn, and if you're motivated to expand your mind, and heck, if you desire to break through those traditional paradigms and find your own version of success, you are in the right place. Awesomers around the world are on a journey to improve their lives and the lives of those around them. We believe in paying it forward, and we fundamentally try to live up to the great Zig Ziglar quote, where he said, "You can have everything in your life you want if you help enough other people get what they want." It doesn't matter where you came from, it only matters where you're going. My name is Steve Simonson, and I hope you will join me on this awesomer journey.
If you're launching a new product manufactured in China, you will need professional, high-resolution, Amazon-ready photographs. Because Simo Global has a team of professionals in China, you will oftentimes receive your listings photographs before your product even leaves the country. This streamlined process will save you the time, money, and energy needed to concentrate on marketing and other creative content strategies before your item is in stock and ready for sale. Visit simoglobal.com to learn more, because a picture should be worth 1,000 keywords.
This is the Awesomers podcast episode number 34, and our tradition has been established that if you want to find the show notes or any relevant details that we may throw in there, some bonus links, etc., just go to awesomers.com/34. That's awesomers.com/34 for any relevant show details. Now, today, our guest, David Somerfleck, is going to give us a little bit of a taste about web design and kind of refresh our memory how important web design can be. David is a trained and certified court mediator, the author of 5 books, a former college journalism professor, an education program director, founder of 3 different startups, and an expert in digital marketing, SEO, website development, social media, content marketing, Google AdWords, Facebook advertising. The list goes on. And he has a traditional boots on the ground advertising background as well. David has been a certified business mentor for SCORE, which is a division of the U.S. Small Business Administration, and a great little resource for some of those new CEOs that have never heard about it. He's done that for over 5 years, where he's advised hundreds of businesses around the world, from large marketing agency owners to lawyers to e-commerce retailers, copywriters, psychologists, mechanics, even startup founders and accountants. We all need help sometimes, don't we? Now, some of David's former clients include the City and County of Denver, Caribou Coffee, AOL Time Warner, and even Microsoft. David's an active member of the Internet Society, the Internet Marketing Association, the Collier County Bar Association, and the International Webmasters Association. That's a lot of associations. Fun fact here, and I found this fascinating myself, David once mediated a child custody dispute scheduled to appear on the Judge Judy program, and briefly operated a mediation nonprofit organization as well. This is a guy who understands how to resolve conflicts. Welcome back, Awesomers. It's Steve Simonson again, and today I'm joined by David Somerfleck. Did I get that right?
Woohoo! Somerfleck. That's fine.
I'm so close. You know, my record of getting guest names right it's really taken a hit this past month. But you know, I appreciate you correcting me. So thank you. And welcome aboard.
Much worse. Go ahead.
Yeah, I suppose so. We all have. So we've already read David's bio, and so everybody kind of knows his deep background and how awesome it is. But I always like to have, you know, somebody to just say in your own words, David, kind of what you do day to day, and summarize, you know, where you live and what you do, so awesomers out there can kind of get to know you.
Sure. Basically, what I do is I have a digital marketing business with a very profound emphasis on marketing. The idea is to promote a business so that your phone rings in very, very direct terms. So I have a digital marketing business. Now I have 2 divisions of that, which is Sudden Impact Web Design, which obviously focuses on web design and works with a broad spectrum of the public. And second to that, or maybe a part of that, is De Facto Digital, which works primarily with solo practice lawyers, attorneys, and smaller law firms.
Boy, that's an interesting delineation there. So, and
Right.
of course, in the show notes, everybody, you'll be able to find the links to these companies and make sure we get you connected. But and we're going to dive in kind of deeper to both of these. But the one that is just intriguing to me is this general idea that, you know, the solo practitioner law firms, I suppose, that, you know, they need a web presence, but when you're a solopreneur or a solo lawyer, you need to look outside for help. And so is this a new thing? Has this been going on since the internet came down? Or it seems weird to me, I have to say, but what do I know? Nothing.
No, I don't think it's weird at all. I don't think it's that weird, really. You have to have empathy, and that's really, really vital. You've got to be able, no matter what you've been through, you have to be able to reverse your perspective and look at it from the perspective of the client. And I learned this by working with a lot of non-technical small business owners, what you call mom and pop shops, but also working for larger agencies where we would have clients calling who would want to know, what can I get done for X amount? It's like you're ordering something at McDonald's. Lawyers, basically, from their perspective, they go to college, they do their 4 years. Now you've got an additional number of years that you have to study information that is extremely specific, very, very detailed, very deep. So they graduate from law school. They're experts in civil law, could be family law, could be personal injury, could be divorce, or whatever their area of specialty is. Could be, I spoke to a business litigator. He would just take other businesses to court. I once mediated a child custody dispute. But basically, they have this very specialized knowledge, and nobody ever really takes them aside and says, this is how you promote your practice.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it
really is. They do them a profound disservice. My wife is a yoga teacher, and she was taking her yoga classes, and she graduated. And she said, nobody ever said anything about how do you get clients? How do I get yoga customers? And it seems to be something that is done, whatever it is. If you go and you study to be a plumber, or you study to be an electrician, they're not going to take you aside and say, this is how you get customers or clients. In the case of lawyers, their area of knowledge is very specific, as it is with any other service provider who specializes and makes a decent living. But nobody takes them aside and tells them, this is how you're going to get clients. And there's so many of them that are out there struggling.
It's a fascinating thing. So the phenomena of, I guess, individual single person law firms was the part that was more intriguing to me. The phenomena of people don't know what to do in real life, right? Where we had the entrepreneurial seizure, we started a business, and now it's like, where are the customers? That seems, that resonates with every entrepreneur on the planet, lawyer or otherwise, because we all want the same thing, which is more customers, right?
Exactly. The solo practice lawyer, I've spoken to many, as you might imagine, and you'll graduate from law school. You have a tremendous amount of student debt. So you've got that stressor on you. And now you're trying to find clients. So you're excited. Hey, I'm just, I want to practice what I studied. I believe in this. I can help people. And I really do believe you can make a very, very positive impact. I've been there. I was a mediator. I know what, I have an idea of what they go through. And to have that skill and that ability, and you can't find anybody. I read something recently, I think it was the Washington Post. I can't remember exactly the source, but it was something that said 86% of low-income Americans cannot get, or they can't find it and they can't afford civil lawyers to represent them in court. 86%. Meanwhile, how many lawyers are graduating from law school and they can't get work? So there's a profound gap there where the people who need the lawyers can't find them, and the lawyers who need work, they can't connect with the people who need them. And I think it's a case of you don't know what you don't know. It's not that either party it's not like they're bad people or anything, or that they're purposely making things difficult. They can't do that. But they're just not meeting. They're not connecting.
Well, it's
like if I were to talk to you and I don't have my glasses on, I can't see anything.
Yeah, without the knowledge, right? And that's what the internet ultimately fills in is the knowledge of, what's somebody's service or what's their offering, and does that match up with what my needs are? So I really like this premise. I like the fact that you've been in kind of the e-commerce and digital marketing space for so many years. When we come back from this break, we're going to talk about kind of the standard things that everybody's interested in, which is getting more leads. And David's an expert about that. And he's going to give us some tips and hints. We'll be right back after this.
Empowery. The name says it all. Connecting e-commerce entrepreneurs with great people, ideas, systems, and the services needed to stay business dynamic and to grow. Empowery is a network, a cooperative venture of tools and resources to make you better at what you do, because we love what you do. We are you. Visit empowery.com to learn more.
Okay, here we are. We're back again, and it's Steve Simonson on the Awesomers.com podcast with David Somerfleck. How about that time? Better.
Perfecto.
All right, good. Whoa.
Perfecto.
All right. Well, if I could bat 500 in baseball, I'd be a superstar. So I'm going to take that as a win. So, David, we teed up before the break that in fact, really every business almost doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're the solopreneur or the solo law firm or even the big companies. We all kind of want more leads.
Yeah.
Give us your philosophy of how that problem, kind of manifests itself, and then maybe some of your first steps that you take to remedy that problem.
Yeah, where does the problem come from? I think the problem really originates. I mean, it's based. It depends on where you're coming to it from. If you have a large corporate enterprise, and we've all worked for really, really large businesses, really large corporations, these mega corporations. I won't go into any names, but I've worked for them independently, freelancing. I've worked for agencies. And in a lot of cases, they're so big and so humongous that they're insulated. We have a marketing division for the big company, but what they do is almost done by rote. It's like almost robotic. There's no thought in innovation or doing anything different. And if you've ever worked at a marketing department for a big major corporation, if you try to innovate or do something new, it's very possible that you'll get slapped back down or just told, hey, that's okay, we don't do that here, we don't work like that. They can't pivot. And that's why you see so many large retailers going under now when they're huge, but they just can't compete, they can't innovate. So Amazon comes along and just eats their lunch. Now, as far as, which may be your audience more, maybe the solopreneur, the freelancer, the small business owner, maybe the mom and pop shop. With them, they're actually better suited because they're more mobile. They can change approaches very quickly. It's not a big deal for a small or medium business to rebrand and come back with a new online presence, or start a new marketing campaign, or change something if they're doing a Google AdWords campaign and they want to transition out of that and do a Facebook ad campaign or whatever, or start writing new content or change things around or whatever. It's not that big a deal for them. Whereas obviously for a large corporation, it's a very big deal. I mean, I was looking at Whole Foods just the other day, which everybody knows was recently acquired by Amazon. So you would think you could go to Whole Foods, look up food, right? Order it, pick it up.
Seems reasonable.
You can't. You can't. I went on the website. I'm trying to look at what kind of food they have. It's not there. I can read articles about it, but I can't see if it's on the shelf. I can't order it and then go pick it up. So large corporations have that same disconnect.
I gotcha. And so,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want to make sure that I'm clear on this point. So if the big company, let's use the analogy that, the big company is the big oil tanker, and the little companies, the smaller enterprises are the little speedboats, right? The speedboats can change direction, can decide, we were going for that beach, but it's choppy water this way and it's glass over here, let's take a right. Whereas that big, oil tankers not changing direction, and even if they turn quickly, it'll take miles and miles and perhaps months and months for that change to take effect. Is that ultimately your point?
Exactly, and I think that's a really, really good analogy, and that's really the advantage of being smaller. Excuse me, as compared to these larger businesses, is that you can pivot. it's kind of like judo or aikido or something. The larger person comes at you and you can kind of pivot and redirect. But that's the strength. One of the benefits of being small is you can do things that the larger businesses cannot. As far as getting leads, getting business, and growing, the smaller enterprise has more adaptability. You can just do more that the larger business can't. You may not have the financial resources, but quite honestly, if I were to take 100 small businesses and give them each $1 million, they wouldn't know what to do with it. They would. What would they invest it in? They don't have P&L statements to show you. So they don't. So it's a tough cookie.
Without a doubt, that there's a question about kind of how you're going to allocate your spend. So on one hand, we have the big complex organizations, and by the way, Procter and Gamble, for the Osmers out there listening, a long-term, multi-generational company, probably 150 years old, massive brand, consumer brand, dominant player, owns so many brands that the names of. They are feeling the pressure of the online world, and they are feeling the pressure of these little speedboat brands that are running around.
And it's ridiculous.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's ridiculous because they have so much financial capital, but they don't know how to innovate. They don't know how to be creative. And if you were working in creative with them, you're thinking about the work culture. You don't want to rock the boat. You want to maintain your nice paycheck, and you want your 401k, you need your health benefits and so on. They don't really innovate anymore. And that's why you see so many businesses going under now. If you look at it, really the internet, to me, probably to you, and to many of your listeners, the internet is like, okay, so what? Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. But for a lot of these business owners, a lot of lawyers, a lot of everybody else, they use it every day, but there's not a connection that this is something that's going to make my phone ring. So what's the value of it? I don't know if I'm digressing too much, but it's a real disconnect. But you have to lay the foundation. If I were to give you 100 new clients, what would you do with them? I remember talking to a woman once who was talking to me about internet marketing. And I said, well, that's fine. We can create e-commerce. And I think she had a clothing store, clothing boutique. So I said, okay, I can create the e-commerce. I can set all that up. I can give you great SEO. We can make it so that, you're very competitive locally, because nationally you can't be competitive. There's no way. And then she came back and basically said, you know what, I don't think I want that. Because if we have more people coming into the store, I'd have to hire more people. I'd have to do more work. We'd have to have more inventory. The system it's just not set up. They have to grow more slowly.
Boy, yeah, that's we call that a Cadillac problem, to be kind of hesitant or afraid of growth. The reality is, I think most small businesses, and particularly my audience, which is going to be largely e-commerce driven, and many of them will have their own brands. And although we all face the cash flow challenges of trying to keep up with inventory, I just had one of my colleagues, they had their product featured on Good Morning America this morning. They sold 10,000 units in one day, which is what they allocated, but now they're back ordered. So it is a great experience for them, and it's a Cadillac problem to have that. And so most folks, I think, are willing to lean into that problem. So what do you tell those types of people, no matter where they come from, doesn't matter if they're mom and pops or solopreneurs or solo attorneys for that matter, for the ones who want the leads, what's some best practices they can put into place?
You have to build it as if it's going to come. What was that movie, Field of Dreams or something? If you build it, it will come. So many people, it's very easy to get into this rut way of thinking where I don't have any money, I can't invest in Google AdWords, I can't invest in Facebook advertising. I'm going to build my own website, even though they don't know web design or SEO, which is wildly common. I mean, unbelievably common. These DIY websites, and then nobody ever finds it. So you have to build it expecting people to come. You have to, whatever it is that you do, you have to scale it and say, look, it might not be happening now, but my phone is going to be ringing. I have to be able to handle at least 5 clients at the same time. So what's your onboarding process? What's your workflow? If 5 people contact you at the same time and they want to work with you, what are you going to do? You have to have that set up. If you have a DIY website, hey, that's fine. If you don't like money, if you're not interested in growing a business and you just want to post photos of your cat or water skiing squirrels or whatever it is that they do, that's fine. I've been doing this since the mid-90s now. I've never seen a DIY free website that ever generated any income. Never, not one. Okay? And I'm not saying that to put people down. I'm just saying that's reality. You get out what you put in. So I would tell people to build it as if you expect people to come. Scale slowly. If you don't have a lot of money to invest, there's nothing wrong with that. You don't go to Starbucks every morning. You don't eat out for 90 days. You'd be amazed how much you can save if you don't go anywhere for 90 days. You know, I call it the 2G budget, gas and groceries. Don't go anywhere for 90 days and you'll save enough money that you can put it into LinkedIn ads and be very specific, or put it into Facebook ads and do the scatter shot wide approach. Mm-hmm. Or you could invest in postcards and just send them out to people that you think you'd like to work with. But be prepared to get some freaking phone calls. You know, don't say I'm going to create a website, but then there's no content. You know, I talked to a solo practice lawyer recently who had a do-it-yourselfer website. He was a tough guy, didn't want to spend any money, not a penny. And that's fine. That's his prerogative. God bless him. But you know the problem. The phone isn't ringing. Nobody's noticing him. I don't understand why. And basically I found out after basically 2 phone calls, he's working for a much older, established law firm. Doesn't really need it. They're giving him the client. So this is more something. In other words, you have to have skin in the game. So I would say build your foundation as if you're going to get at least 5 clients coming in per day. Scale it like that. Plan for growth. Prepare for it. Read a book a week. You know, go to Udemy and sign up for the free online business courses. There's a website called Open Culture. You can go to and take all the free business courses that you want. So there's really no excuse today for people to be uninformed. Just, well, I don't know what to do, or I don't know about X, Y, Z, when you have all this wealth of information available to you online. So be informed, build to scale, get out what you put in. If you don't know what you're doing, start saving and start planning. Have a business plan. And that's basically where I get wound up, so to speak, is building a comprehensive marketing plan that has different levels or different tiers. So you would have different approaches.
So
and
let me
that's
ask you
basically
this,
what I do a lot.
I'm sorry to jump in, David, but I do have a question about, so, you know, I generally agree with this premise that, you know, if somebody just builds a site that's on the free Wix or the free, you know, I don't even know all the names out there these days, then it's going to be tough for that to turn into actually a real commercial business. But what's your opinion about the sites like Shopify or, you know, similar platforms? I can't think of some of the others off the top of my head. You know, WordPress, WooCommerce. What's your thoughts about those? And those seem to be kind of very commonly used. How does that interface with the work you do?
Well, there's a profound difference between the free DIY sites and working with a professional developer who knows what he or she is doing, and they have credentials and they've been doing it for, you know, a decade or 2. And they've got credentials and so on. There's a big, big difference. It's, you know, on Amazon, they have do-it-yourself dentistry kits. There's a big difference. As far as Shopify, it's kind of the same thing, because you're basically using a do-it-yourself builder to build something and then put it out there into the world, and you're basically expecting that people are going to find you. How are they going to find you? If you're not investing in advertising, or unless you're working with someone who knows SEO really well, how is anybody ever going to find you? It has to be a very, very narrow, specific niche, or else nobody's going to find you.
That's for sure. Any website,
let's get real.
Yeah, no matter what. Yeah.
Amazon, you know.
If you put a product on Amazon, if you put a website out there, it's just one of the billions and billions of stars in space. Without a route to find you, I completely agree that you must have it. So let's assume that we have a nicely built website,
Sure.
and so we're prepared, we're ready to scale. What do we do to drive traffic to that website?
I'm assuming that you built it with someone who has a knowledge of SEO. What can you do to build that e-commerce site so that it gets more lead generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
More patronage. Blogging is pretty big. I was #1 on Google when I was in Denver, Colorado. I'm in Florida now. And I'll never forget, a competitor called me up, and his exact words were, "You beautiful bastard, what did you do?" Now, I knew right away who it was, and he was a really, really nice guy. And one of these people is just so likable, you can't help but, want to give him a hug when you see him. He said, "How did you get to be #1 on Google?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Yeah, you're right up there." And I told him, "I don't look at it every day. It's too stressful. I don't want to know. You work toward that goal." So basically I said, well, I've been tinkering with the website every day on a regular basis, fine-tuning the content, fine-tuning the SEO, looking at what competitors are doing, what they're saying, what they're writing about, and trying to appeal to my ideal client, that ideal niche client. Back then I was saying, I don't want to be a web developer. I want to be somebody who uses the web to help businesses grow. The big difference. I don't want to be slinging templates and competing on Craigslist or Fiverr to try to pay the rent. I want to be working with people with real businesses with real problems. So I want to change that. So I kept tinkering with the content on a daily basis. What that did was it kept pushing me up Google slowly but surely, because to Google, this website is being changed so often, it's got things going on. So blogging is still very, very important. It's still very relevant. How many of these e-commerce sites don't blog?
Yeah, many people miss that opportunity. So just to drive this point home, and I'm going to put it in my own words, but please feel free to correct me, David. But the idea of Google, so first of all, the premise that SEO is dead is a misunderstood premise, right? We agree that is complete crap, right, David?
Let's say that. If that were the case, how would you have Google making more money and still be in business? How would Google AdWords be this multi-million-dollar enterprise that it is? Why would big, giant mega corporations like Coca-Cola and Disney be investing in SEO on a daily basis? That makes no sense.
Well, but Google AdWords, for clarity, that's the paid platform. That's SEM, search engine marketing, for the lay people out there. And that's where we just pay for our placements. But SEO, search engine optimization, this is where you're trying to get yourself in the organic listings. It used to be way easier in the olden days. But so the premise that's gone, despite them ratcheting down and unleashing the menagerie of animals as they have over the past 10, 15 years, making it harder, real content and quality content still ranks organically. That's fundamentally a point, yes?
Absolutely. I've actually consulted with larger marketing agencies, and there are some who are very competitive in their SEO just by writing content, just by blogging on a regular recurring basis, very aggressively writing about everything that they think their ideal clients want to know about. So you could still move the meter by blogging on a regular recurring basis. The more often you write good content, not crap content, but good content that's actually thought out, like a research paper with lots of links and videos and imagery. Google picks all that up. Your alt tags, your meta, and all that stuff. The more often you do that on a regular, recurring, scheduled basis, like every Monday at 9 a.m., for example, Google's going to automate that and start looking. It's going to be trained, so to speak, or primed to be looking for this. And it can actually still move the meter. SEO ain't dead, believe me.
Yeah,
it's more difficult. That's a big difference. It's more difficult to get a grip on because Google is the leader. They're not going anywhere for at least another decade or so. And they keep changing their algorithms every quarter or so. So it's harder to get a grip on it. It's more time consuming. But Google owns that space right now. Yahoo had their chance and they weren't interested.
Yeah, they also weren't interested when Microsoft offered to buy them for $50 billion and later sold for a few billion in a fire sale and had to give some of the money back after they got sued for
don't get me started on that. It's just
there's lost opportunity. So you're right. We won't digress to there. But the other point I want to help drive home, and David alluded to this, but recency is a big part of what my interpretation of the Google algorithm likes. Recency and kind of the consistency of change, right? So if you just make a static page out there in space, it's going to stay pretty static and not changing. Whereas if you modify and add stuff, it seems to be better. David?
I can tell you right now, my two main business websites are both on the first page of Google right now for the SEO that I wanted. Mm-hmm. So it's working. I mean, it's right there at the top of Google search results. If SEO were dead, I wouldn't be able to do that. And it's really, some of the changes that you can do could take 10 minutes. But if you don't know how to do it, then you can't do it. But SEO is absolutely here to stay. It's not changing. It's becoming more complex. It's more time consuming. You're not going to get into Google Analytics if you have to study it. It's difficult. I have to get up to speed. And if you have the skills or had it and you haven't used it in a long time, then you got to go back and relearn it because it changes so quickly. But that's why I'm a firm believer that the business owner should run their business, be the best they can at that, and then let the professional web developer build their site, but just vet who you're working with,
Yep, I quite agree. So that premise of bringing in expertise around you to supplement your the skills or the gaps in skills that may exist, it's true in every category to me, and it certainly can be true in this. So let's assume that we've got reasonable SEO, we've got a reasonable site built. What's the next thing that they could do to drive leads? Because I want to make sure we give some little nugget here before we have to tie this one off.
No, I appreciate you keeping me on track. I can digress if I don't have enough caffeine. You got your SEO, you've got the content marketing, you want to push that with social. Keep in mind that social media is just a distribution system. That's all it is. It's not a miracle. You've got to have good content to funnel through social media channels on a regular, recurring basis. Every week has something exciting that's fun for people. But I like to combine digital marketing with what I call old school boots on the ground marketing. And if I work with a client, and I'm not going to work with somebody if I don't feel I can really knock it out of the park with them and really deliver in spades. I really want to ram it home, or else I'm not going to do it. So you do that by combining old school boots on the ground marketing. That would be, let's say you're a lawyer, okay, just for the sake of brevity. Let's say you're a lawyer, you can't get enough clients, okay, very common problem. Let's say they've got a great website, they're writing blogs on a weekly basis, they take the blog post, they convert it into a podcast, and now they turn it into a video. So they have a weekly video series on YouTube that they can send to other video sharing sites. They have a weekly podcast, they've got weekly blog posts, all that's great. They've got it all done, all the SEO, everything's great. Now, what can you do on top of that to bring in even more referrals? Well, you could go to a website like meetup.com, start a local group to provide advice, some kind of a networking get-together type of meeting group to bring in physical bodies people coming in. For a lawyer, it's great because I know their profession, their field. So if you could have a meetup group discussing what divorcing couples should know, or how to handle child custody issues, or a divorce healing group, or divorced singles group. I've seen that. Divorced singles get together. Who's the host or organizer of the group? This really nice divorce attorney. Obviously, he's got it. He's helping singles get together, but he's got his own mind as well, getting the word out. It's indirect, but it's getting the word out. So you want to look at how you can do things in an old school physical way. Have a presentation to professional associations that has a very, very high return on investment. I've never had a case where I would give a presentation to a professional association and not gotten follow-up phone calls, or could you work with a friend of mine, or I'd be interested in working with you. Could you send me a prospectus, or could we talk? I've never had that happen where you've given a presentation, but it's got to be a professional association. Electricians, lawyers, doctors, dentists, whomever.
So there's a ton in there, David. There's just so many tactics and things that people can do to deploy both on the local level or on the national level, right? Webinars would be the same thing as giving presentations, right? And just
videotape them.
Yeah, this follows the general premise of let's go ahead and give something of value, and then see what comes back to us, right? We like that as Awesomers. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to give David the final word. Give us the crystal ball view, the future of how he sees kind of internet marketing going, and we're going to do that right after this.
Hey, Amazon Marketplace professionals. Congratulations on your success to date. Your creativity, strategic vision, problem solving, and discipline have allowed you to build your own e-commerce business. Wouldn't it be great if you had more time to focus on the things that truly drive the sales and growth of your company? Instead of getting lost in a dozen different services and countless spreadsheets, what if there was one system that connected to your Amazon account and automatically gave you the information that you needed to make great decisions and really impact your business? Parsimony ERP can do that. Parsimony is the business operating system for your marketplace business. With Parsimony, you get true double-entry bookkeeping, easy financial statements, full customer service tools, and item-by-item profitability, along with project and task management, and more features are being added all the time. Learn more at parsimony.com. That's Parsimony, PARSIMONY.com. Parsimony.com. We've got that.
Okay, guys, we're back again. Steve Simonson here with David Somerfleck, and we're talking about all things digital marketing and trying to really put a bow on this thing. We've talked about the idea that SEO is still relevant. There's different ways that we can market and bring content to our sites to make it more relevant. But David, one of the things that I always like to get an opinion of, especially somebody who's been in the internet space since the mid '90s, right? That's I go back to that same length of time. My first website was put up in 1996, and it was not Awesomer. I can just give full disclosure on it. But so from your experience, where do you see the future of internet marketing going? Let's say in the next 5 years. Any surprises? Any here to add?
I think a lot of it is already very intuitive in that you pretty much know what to expect. Basically, what we're going to see is more of what we have now. More and more people are going to be doing everything using their phone. If anything, I think phones are probably going to get fatter. This thing, I think they're going to continue working on that. And, more people have smartphones now than have laptops or PCs. So you've got to have a mobile first sensibility in everything that you do. SEO, writing, everything. So I see more of that, more people using mobile for everything that they do. And I think also you're going to see a lot more consolidation. It's about serving the customers. You're going to see more of retail. It's going to be more about what you see now with Amazon, with more consolidation. Place your order online, go pick it up, or go work with someone. I'm actually very surprised that Amazon hasn't bought up Sears yet and kind of consolidated that with their marketplace type of thing, where you could hire an electrician, go to Sears and go get supplies or what have you, or go meet the electrician or whatever, just as they bought up Whole Foods. It's happening already. So I think you're going to see a lot more consolidation of resources and a lot more movement toward mobile than we've ever seen before in history. Very, very few people are going to have PCs anymore. You're just going to see a lot more tablets and a lot more of these smartphones.
Yeah, you heard it here first, everybody. The reality is that I quite agree that the mobile and the multi-device experience, which, the customer journey now happens many times on multiple devices. Maybe they've working on the computer at the office, maybe they're surfing on their phone, they get the tablet. It just crosses so many devices now. It's becoming very convenient for customers. Even today, myself, I've been on multiple devices and carrying on more or less the same conversations, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's a Facebook message or whatever. So I think that's very nice insight. And then, of course, the idea that this convergence of retail and online, or so-called omni-channel,
the interconnectedness. You're going to be getting, messages, SMS. You're going to be getting, newsletters are going to be coming through your text messages. And you're going to, instead of sending emails, you're going to be using things like, Loom? You're going to be doing things like what we're doing now, Google Hangouts and so on your phone. It's exciting, it's fun, but it's overwhelming a lot of business owners who just don't know how to keep up. And that's where you have to just ask for help.
Well, this
Sorry to cut you off. I just love the topic.
It's quite right. And I love the passion. I love the insights. And I want to say to especially the smaller companies, especially mom and pops, because I have a deep background in kind of land-based stores and retail and so forth. And you have done a great number of, kind of the solo attorney office and so forth. Often these smaller local businesses feel like they're left behind, that the internet's not something they can leverage. And I want to just say as clear as I can, it absolutely can be leveraged to a high degree within affordable ranges, right? It does take.
Oh, absolutely. You can get up. There is no web developer out there who would not work with you or get on a payment plan. They may say, look, I'm not going to lower my rates because it's still quality. It's still work for me. I still have bills and a family to take care of, but we can get on some kind of a payment plan. There's nobody who is not going to do that. It's about you being receptive to a process that hopefully the digital marketing guru guy is going to have a process and know what they're doing, as opposed to hobbyist kind of thing where it's disjointed and you hear about all these negative experiences.
Well, it definitely is something. One of the awesomer philosophies that we've shared before is, you really do get out what you put in, and that's both effort, that's intellectual skill building, and it's the same thing when you're trying to invest in something that should be an asset that produces revenue. So, David, I want to thank you for taking the time today. It's been a great pleasure to meet you. Don't forget, awesomers, that we'll have the links to David's companies on the show notes page, which we'll share with you at the end of this episode. And we'll be right back after this.
Catalyst 88 was developed to help entrepreneurs achieve their short and long-term goals in e-commerce markets by utilizing the power of shared entrepreneurial wisdom. Entrepreneurship is nothing if not lessons to be learned. Learn from others. Learn from us. I guarantee that we will learn from you. Visit catalyst88.com because your success is our success. And giddy up.
It's a fascinating concept to me that independent law firms or small lawyers who start their own practices really are entrepreneurs in the very traditional sense. I don't always think of law firms that way, but especially these smaller groups and the guys who start up, and gals for that matter, who start up firms all by themselves, they're a classic entrepreneur, and of course they need help. They have unique problems of being, kind of a local business, so they don't want to advertise to the world like an e-commerce company. And they have other things that, they may have specialties that present unique challenges, right? It's not just any kind of law. Only call me for family law, or only call me for patent and trademark law, whatever the case may be. So it's a very interesting thing, and I think a nice reinforcement of some of the basics of web design And remembering that our websites are very important and can be a major source of income for us, even today in the world of marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, Jet.com, and others kind of taking big bites out of the marketplace at large. You are listening to the Awesomers.com podcast, episode number 34. And to find those secret show notes and details, any links that we may have discussed, just go to Awesomers.com/34. As always, all the little details and links and sometimes the books or things that we talk about at Awesomers.com/34. Well, we've done it again, everybody. We have another episode of the Awesomers podcast ready for the world. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you've enjoyed our program today. Now's a good time to take a moment to subscribe, like, and share this podcast. Heck, you could even leave a review if you wanted. Awesomers around you will appreciate your help. It's only with your participation and sharing that we'll be able to achieve our goals. Our success is literally in your hands. Thank you again for joining us. We are at your service. Find out more about me, Steve Simonson, our guests, team, and all the other Awesomers involved at Awesomers.com. Thank you again.